Hi everyone, Weis Dietitian Taylor here. Thank you so much for joining us for our third episode in our nutrition series. And so today we're going to be talking about the different types of sugars that you can find in foods. And so if you watched our first episode, you learned that all the carbohydrates that we eat turn into a sugar called glucose. And so glucose is going to be the main source of fuel for your body and especially your brain. And so the two types of sugars that you can find in foods are going to be added sugars and naturally occurring sugars. So added sugars are going to be any sugars that have been added to a food. And so it can be table sugar that's been added, it could be high fructose corn syrup that's been added, or other sugars as well. Think of like sweetened dairy products, cereal, sweetened oatmeal, pastries, those kind of things. Those are all going to have added sugars to them. Naturally occurring sugars are going to be foods that are exactly that. They have naturally occurring sugars. We haven't added any sweetener to them. They're just naturally sweet. And so think of fruit, for example. If you bite into an apple, that's going to taste very sweet on its own. We haven't added any sugar to that. So that's an example of a naturally occurring sugar. Another example would be dairy products. So dairy has a naturally occurring sugar called lactose. So milk, plain yogurt, those would be examples of naturally occurring sugars. And so the Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that no more than 10% of your daily calories come from added sugars. And so with a moderately active 8-year-old child, you would find that 10% would be about 40 grams. And so that 40 gram mark is a mark that you're not necessarily trying to achieve, but the goal is to stay under that mark. So you want to have less than 40 grams of added sugar a day if you were an 8-year-old moderately active child. And so that's just an example to kind of put a number on it. So let's go ahead and look at my example here. So I have these Quaker Chewy bars. So this is a pretty common snack. And so I'm just going to flip it around and look at the nutrition facts panel. And on this panel, I can find a lot of good information. Find the serving size, I can find how many calories are per serving, how many servings are in this whole container, etc. And so I know that there's 5 servings per container, so there's 5 bars in this box. The serving size is 1 bar. So in 1 bar, it's 180 calories, 2.5 grams of saturated fat. We've got 2 grams of fiber. I have 13 total sugar. So if you go down the nutrition facts panel and go down to total sugars, that's where you'll find right below that how many grams of added sugars are there, and that's how you'll know if there is any present, and if so, how much. So in this example, we have 12 grams of added sugar. So with our 40 gram example, that's about 30% of your daily added sugar, and that's actually just in a snack bar. So just kind of to keep that in perspective and how it would fit. So 30% of your daily sugar would be coming from not even a meal. So also we have 2 grams of protein. So again, just to kind of go through what's in here: 180 calories, 6 grams of fat, 12 grams of added sugar, and 2 grams of protein. Now this idea here, so today we're going to make no-bake energy bites. And so the reason I chose this recipe is because it's similar in like the texture and kind of the ingredients and like the mouthfeel to one of these Quaker oats bars. And so for this recipe, it's very easy to do, but what we're gonna see is that, I calculated the nutrition information for this recipe just the way I'm gonna do it for you here. And what I found is that this is gonna have about 45% less sugar, less added sugar than these Chewy bars here. So this is gonna have in 1 serving, which is also 180 calories, just like these are, it's only gonna have 7.5 grams of added sugar versus the 12 that you find in here. And so it's not that you can't ever have added sugar, it's that you want to have it in moderation, and you want to cut back where you can. And so not only is this going to have less sugar, but it's going to have more fiber. It's also going to have more than double the protein. So if you remember back to that healthy snack formula that we talked about in our last video, the healthy snack formula includes fiber, protein, healthy fats, and that's going to have all of those in this recipe here. And so we'll go ahead and just start making this. And so what I have on my bowl so far is 1/2 cup of old-fashioned oats. So just 1/2 cup of that. To that, I'm going to add some flaxseed. So this is a half of a cup of flaxseed. And so actually what we're creating right now is just the base of our energy bites. And so I have the half of a cup of flaxseed in there. So those are my 2 dry ingredients. And so flax is gonna add some healthy omega-3 fats. It's gonna add some fiber, some protein. The oats, of course, are gonna also add some fiber and a little bit of protein as well. And then I'm gonna add some peanut butter. And so like we talked about last time, if you have any food allergies at home, you can always sub out the peanut butter for nut butter alternatives such as sunflower seed butter. And so half of a cup of the peanut butter, half of a cup of the flax, 1 cup of the oats, and then I'm gonna add just enough sweetness. I've got some honey in here, so this is 1/3 of a cup of honey, and I'm gonna add that in. Just like that. And then I'm gonna stir it all together. Oh, you know what? Vanilla. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. Almost forgot that. Okay, and so that creates the base of our energy bites. And so the reason I'm saying that it's a base is because at this point you can really mix in whatever you like or whatever you have on hand. And so I chose to make my energy bites today walnut and date energy bites. And the reason I did that is I had walnuts in my pantry, but also because I like dates. They're very sweet and they don't have any added sugar. And so by themselves, they are going to kind of add a little bit more sweetness to these energy bites as a nice way to satisfy your child's sweet tooth. Dates are also a good source of fiber. So 1 serving has about 3 grams of fiber in them. And lastly, I'm gonna stir my walnuts here. And so that's a half of a cup. So for your mix-ins, you can do a half of a cup of up to 3 different ingredients. And so I did a half of a cup of walnuts and sorry, my dates, I did 6 total. 6 total dates. I felt like a half of a cup of chopped dates because they're so sweet would be too much. So I did 6 dates. Now, if you wanted to do other dried fruits at home, such as raisins or cranberries or anything like that, you could absolutely do that. You could use a half of a cup of those. And so I'm just going to try to get this to all mixed together here. Now, if you have a mixer at home, you could do it that way, but it's not too bad. Usually, once it gets a little bit hard to stir with my spatula, I'll either grab a wooden spoon or I'll just go ahead and put my hands in there because the next step is to roll them into balls. So if I'm going to roll these into balls, I'm going to roll them into 25 1-inch balls. Now, you don't have to do that. Alternatively, you could just press this into a pan. And so if you press this into a pan, you would cut it into 12 bars. And so the serving size for this is going to be either 2 balls, should you roll them in 2 balls, or it's going to be 1 bar. And the nutrition information comes out to be very similar calorie-wise to these Quaker Chewy bars. And so it's 180 calories about for the 2 balls or the 1 bar. And like I mentioned, you're gonna have more fiber, more protein, kind of the health benefits of incorporating some flax into your diet or your child's diet, and a nice portable snack. And of course, you know, it's a little messy. It could be a fun one to get the kids involved. I've done this recipe in children's cooking classes. The kids love to, you know, get a little messy, get a little hands-on. And then so you're gonna roll this into a ball or press it into the pan and then store it in your in your fridge for up to a week in an airtight container. And so again, just a really quick, simple snack idea. You saw how quickly that came together. Another fun idea to get the kids involved in the kitchen. So I hope that this video and this information was helpful, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week, hopefully, for our next video, Smoothie 101. Have a great day.